IVM.
So it's been another great week on IVM where we try to get you the best podcasts that are around. This week on the Pragati podcast, we have management and mint columnist Karthik Sashidhar, who joins Pawan and Hamsani to talk about elections and voting. On Shunyavan, we have Sameer Pittalwala, founder of Culture Machine, talking about streaming content online and ad creation through tech, his journey with setting up Culture Machine. On IVM Likes, we have Abbas, Janam and Naveen talking about the meme culture. On the Vishal Gondal show, Vishal welcomes Vivek Bhargava, CEO of iProspect to Communicate, one of the foremost digital advertising companies in the country. On Keeping It Queer, Naveen interacts with queer filmmaker Pradipta Ray, who opens up about what it was like to identify as trans in a culturally affluent household. On Who's Your Mommy, we tackle the weird advice literally everyone gives to new moms. On Cyrus Says, we have Gauri Devi Dayal, an ace entrepreneur responsible for starting several awesome restaurants in Bombay. On Sonology, a unique agony aunt call-in show, Sonu helps his listeners on how to potty train their dogs. It's been a great week on IVM, and we hope that you can check out as many of these shows as you can. And now let me get you onto your show.
Friends, I'm sitting today with a man who can tell you how can you buy happiness. Yes, he can tell you how can you buy happiness. He has come from a very, very interesting background. Was a sportsman at one point of time and today is already excelling in the sport. Started his first tech company in the early .com era. Has done it all in the digital advertising space. But today has transitioned into a much broader role of advising startups, being incorporated with all kinds of ads, agencies, the digital world. He travels the world, he gives gyan, he gives TED Talks. And I think one of the most amazing qualities of my guest today, who is none other than Vivek Bhargava, is he's humble to the core. You can meet him, have a chat with him, and he can tell you the most gyani things of all time. Welcome to the show, Vivek.
Thanks,
really
Vishal.
Excited to have you here.
Thanks, Vishal.
So, we now know each other again for quite some time. Years back. I think we first got introduced through our friend PK or before that?
I think before that. I think
Before
we've
that.
known...
Yeah,
I
even
think the
before
digital marketing days, India Games.
Exactly. Yeah. This
much before that.
Much before that. But you started your company fairly early. This is your first company, 1994, 95? When was 97. So tell me more about that company.
So basically what happened was that... So I'll give you a background how entrepreneurship happens in business families, right? So I still remember...
your family was in this whole music business, right? So again, has got nothing to do with tech.
So I must have been 10, 11 years old. I was sitting on the dinner table with my father. And my father asked me this question.
And you are the only...
No, I have two brothers and one sister. So both of them are in the family business per se. And so basically what happened was this conversation happening. He says, Beta, do you know the difference between a job and business? I said, you're 10 years old, right? He says, no. He says, see, in a job, you have to always basically spend less than what you earn. In business, you can spend 1 crore rupees a day. But all you have to do is earn more than that. So I thought to myself, 10 years old, I say, I'm going to do business.
That's a very
I'm going to do
interesting
business because I want to spend 1 crore rupees a day. So I think that seed of entrepreneurship gets set very, very early in business families. Right?
By the way, I tell exactly the same thing to my kids because these are all, the millennials who are all on the apps and they all want to be millionaires and billionaires. And my point is, guys, if you want to be billionaires, the only way you can do that is by starting a company. No job can make you a millionaire or a billionaire today.
Absolutely. It's in fact one of those sayings that has always motivated me in the tough times of entrepreneurship, that an entrepreneur spends a few years of his life like most people won't, so he can spend the rest of it like most people can't.
Yeah, that's an amazing way. But coming back to this, and I remember I had met you again, I think in the early days of .com, but there was one thing which kind of really took you to the next level, and it is the most famous Muchchad Pan shop online. I know it was सब लोग बोल रहे थे कि ये पान वाले का भी website बन गया इंडिया में. It was on, I think, news, on print, on television. So how did you go and convince one pan wala कि भैया, I want to make a website of yours? How did that happen?
So basically what happened was that those were the early days, 1997, like .com was like not even a word in India, right? I would go for pitches and try to sell that you should make a website. And after 3 hours of that, the guy says that I'm convinced. And before I could say yippee, he says that I'm convinced that we should get internet connection for our office. So then instead of basically selling a website, I would be selling internet connections for BSNL. Yeah. Right? So basically what happened was that I was in front of this panwala and we used to go there as friends. Having
a very famous pan shop.
Very famous pan shop. And my friend used to live in Grand Paradi. So we used to go there. And suddenly I told him that, we should make a website. He says, wo kya hota hai? So basically convinced him that, ye hoega, internet pe jayega, this will happen. So he said that, acha, iska kharcha kitna hoega? He said, no, we will not charge you anything. So when we have free time, this is an interesting project for my web designers. Let's do it. In those days, we didn't even have access to a digital camera. So I remember taking those pans to a scanner and taking a supari, putting on the scanner, putting the pan on the scanner, and then he would tell us all these stories, interesting stories, how Mughals, the women used to use pan as a replacement for lipstick. And like all these, I said, this is going to be an amazing website. So we did that, and suddenly Times of India put it in the front page. Muchar Panwala spits out a URL. Rediff covers it. Then the television media got in. 9 o'clock news, it came in. We got like 10,000 emails per day from NRIs all over the world. And it was just crazy. So basically, school kids used to come in buses just to see the Panwala shop.
And what you just did reminds me of Seth Godin, the great marketing guru, and he talks about a very interesting concept called the purple cow. So if you can get the purple cow, which is something remarkable, is what makes you stand out. So I think Muchhad Panwala became the purple cow for your business.
Absolutely.
And what you did, right?
In those days we used to work with MTV, with Ban, with Mahindra and Mahindras, but I think the amount of recognition, fame and business we got because of Muchhad Panwala was overshadowed all these big corporates that we used to work with.
Absolutely, right? So you have this knack of finding the purple cows every time you do something so different. And now off late you've been playing table tennis at the national level. So tell me what is going on with that.
So see, basically I think all people, right, they play a sport, they follow their passion till the time they become 18 years old. When they turn 18, something which is a known word in India, he says you need to now get settled. And the settle
means leave sports, leave art.
Exactly, right? Not only that, settle doesn't end, right? So what happens is settled is, do you get a job? First, do you become a graduate? You do your MBA, you do engineering. Are you settled? No. You get a job, you're settled? No. Do you get married? You're settled? No. Do you have a kid? You're settled? No. You get your kid married? Are you settled? No. So basically what happens is there is no end to it, right? Yeah. That settling is from 18 to 90. Till the time you meet your maker, that getting settled is still going on in some form or factor, right? So I was very clear that I wanted to pursue happiness, increase joy and happiness in my life every single minute. So I said, what are the things that give me joy? And I found that sports, especially table tennis, gives me tremendous amount of joy. I used to be a state level player under 14, and then I left it for 15 years, and I took it back again. I think the best thing that happened to me. So I travel 15 days in a month, but there's only so much table tennis you can play on a plane. But the fact of the matter is that 1 hour, right, it almost you forget. It's like meditation. You forget what's happening at home. You forget what's happening at work. You forget basically every single worry is forgotten. And that 1 hour, it also, from a scientific point of view, right, it actually produces BDNF proteins, which are mood elevators. And endorphins are obviously produced, it gives you happiness. So if you can take up a passion that you left sometime in your life and take it back again, I think it'll completely transform your life. So all my CSR also now is completely sports. Not only sports, table tennis. So I may send a paraplegic to play an international tournament or buy a team in the UTT or sponsor Mumbai Super League out here or help players go to a different level and sponsor players, sending tables to Sonam Wangchuk's school in Ladakh. Everything is table tennis, right? And we built our own academy in Elphinstone Road. I've invested in a company that basically makes table tennis apparel and other equipment of table tennis.
You've really taken the passion to the next level.
This
passion you said started when you were in school.
Yeah, it started when I was like maybe 4 or 5 years old.
And you grew up in Mussoorie, right?
I grew up in Mussoorie.
So how was, I mean, such a beautiful place, man? And now, of course, it's very commercial, but I think in the late 80s, it must be like paradise.
It was paradise. So if I tell you my lifestyle out there, right, it's very almost like a charm prince's lifestyle. So what happened, my father left basically Bombay because he had suffered a huge loss in one of his chemical companies he started. So he wanted to just take a break, and our musical instruments business was being run by my uncles and brothers by then. So he was happy, giving it to them. So we sell a Nepean Sea Road house and buy a 120-year-old bungalow in Mussoorie. The servant quarters had 20 rooms.
Ooh,
I had my own horse. That horse would take me to school.
Wow.
The horse would come back and then come back to fetch me, right? And the school was 4 kilometers away.
That's like a fairy tale,
right?
literally.
So just imagine, right? You have this thing and a dog to accompany me, right? So it must have been quite a sight, right? This 5-year-old kid on a horse and a dog and like going to school. It's like...
And Mussoorie has one of the best schools in the world.
Right?
So what school did you go to there?
So I went to Weinberg Island.
Okay.
Right? And then what happened was that I had a TD table at home. So suddenly what happened was that 6 months I was doing this. There was a story about harmonium, right? Musical instruments family. So they said you should learn an instrument and play a sport. So they chose harmonium. They got the strictest professor of harmonium who taught me Sare Gama Pada Nisa for 6 months. After that I cried and cried and cried. I said, I'm not going to learn any instrument. I want to play TT. So that's how TT happened. And then suddenly what happened was
so
I started winning.
The black sheep in the family of musicians
Absolutely.
is you go and play TT.
Absolutely. So I became sub-junior, junior, intermediate, men's champion. I became a district level player, state level player.
And that time it was UP, right? I mean, this was part of UP,
exactly,
right?
Mussoorie, yeah. And the thing is, in hill station schools, right, especially all boarding schools, academics don't matter too much. If you're a sports person and you're a state level player, you're God. Right? So what happened was that we used to have these assemblies where they used to give out the prizes that you've already won. You bring it to school. So I had to take 2 or 3 people as friends who would carry back all the shields because one person couldn't carry it back. Because I would win every category. I would win doubles in every category.
Wow.
Finally, I had these bories of shields that we threw it away when we shifted to Bombay. Because there's no place to keep it, right? What do you do with these things?
So you were in Mussoorie till when? Which year?
So I was there till my 8th grade. 9th standard, I shifted to Bombay Scottish.
Wow.
And
so from Mussoorie back to Bombay. And why? So your father decided to come back and set up.
So basically what happened was that so one of the things was that I think schools are very good in Mussoorie, but I think colleges are not so good. Higher education, there is zilch, right? So my father decided that, okay, let's come back to Bombay. I think he had his 10 years of solace and peace, and he was ready to join back the business.
So almost 10 years he was in Mussoorie.
Yeah, 10 years we were in Mussoorie. And it was, I tell you one thing, I think the best thing that happened to me was coming back to Bombay. Because what happened was that this charmed life had created this fairy tale environment of how I see the world. I said everybody goes out of the way to help me.
To school,
right? I am affluent, I am a state level player, so everybody treated me with, like, I thought this is how people are generally treated.
You still have that house in Mussoorie? Or?
No, we got rid of it about a few years ago, about 10 years ago, because it's very difficult to maintain it from Bombay.
Okay. It could have just got converted into one of those fancy hotels.
Yeah, it could have been, yeah. Right? So basically what happened was, when I came here, it was a dramatic shift for me. Because what happened was, we'd done plant physiology, they had done human physiology, they finished off 40-50% of the portion of ICSE in A standard. I fell off a horse and the horse fell on me, fractured my leg. I got jaundice, relapse. So like 11 months, basically I missed the whole of 9th.
Wow.
By that time they finished off all of ICSE portion. So coming from, being the best, most popular guy in school to being a nobody, and table tennis was not even considered a sport in Bombay Scottish. So basically what happened was...
In any school in Bombay, so I used to play volleyball, right? So I was a national level player. Of course, luckily I got admission in Podar College because of that. But uske baad there's no future in sports, right?
Exactly. So then what happened was, that is what completely transformed my life. Because I realized that if I want to get treated the way I got treated in Mussoorie, I'll have to do things differently. So that basically set the tone for the rest of my life. If I had not got that jhatka of coming back to Bombay and facing the music and realizing that life is not so rosy and people don't actually go out of the way to help you, the way teachers treat you.
Were you the youngest
different.
in the family, or?
Yeah, I was the youngest in the family.
Okay.
So you were anyway doted a lot more. So basically, I think that Bombay Scottish jolt really, really transformed my life. I think every single time when I feel that, you know what, should I work this hard? Should I go this extra mile? Should I do this? I think of myself, Vivek, do you want to get treated the way you were treated in Bombay Scottish?
Or do you I hope Bombay Scottish people are listening. They are very, very tough on students.
So, you know, the funny part was they had a group in Bombay Scottish. So on the Facebook group of 1989 is the year that I gave my 10th, I wrote exactly this. So everybody knows about it. Because they don't realize it, right?
What did you write?
I wrote exactly that the best thing that happened to me was Bombay Scottish. And not for the reason that you think is positive. Negative reason. When somebody comes, right, and the thing is, just imagine, right, people don't give me the notes. They're very competitive per se in school environment, right? But here's a guy who's coming second last in class. So, if you ask notes for somebody who's coming second or third in class, how is it going to matter, right? But the thing is, it's a very competitive environment. But I think that transformed my life.
And I can see this competitive streak in you, right? So was that developed in Bombay Scottish?
No, see, the competitive streak was always there. I think sports gives that to you, right? So I actually encourage a lot of people to play sports, competitive sports, because it does two things. First, I think it builds that competitive spirit. It also teaches you one simple fact in life. If you want to become better at something, you got to work harder at it.
No, and I think another thing which sports teaches you is to face defeat.
Exactly.
Because nobody loses, right? In school,
Absolutely.
You all want to win. Everybody wants to win. But when you are playing sport, you win 5 matches, you lose 10 matches, right? Yeah. So losing is a very important part of life too.
Absolutely.
And that's what I tell even my friends that and everybody, that sports taught me losing and then coming back in the next game and saying, now I'm going to beat you after losing 5 games in a row.
And you also know that till the time you've not lost, you're not lost.
Exactly.
I'm playing inter-club table tennis matches right now. So one of the matches recently I played, day before yesterday, so it was a game of 11. I was in the decider, which is the final game. I was 5-love down. There was 8-4 down. Wow. Or I think 8-3 down. From there also, and I won that game and I won the match.
Wow.
Right? So,
8-3.
Yeah, so just imagine, 3 points and they can make a difference. So I think that thing, that till the time the last ball is bowled or the last
and
shot
very
is
frankly, this is one thing I keep asking people, and I am always trying to create that what are successful people doing. And most people who have been successful at team building have a sports background in some way, because you learn the dynamics of sports and teams at a very different level, right?
Absolutely.
Because there you need to motivate the other guy who's down. Sometimes somebody is not coming. There is politics. There's all kinds of shit going on, right?
And you can't wing it, right?
Exactly.
See, many other things in life, right? You can wing it. You can't say, okay, you know what, मैं tailway पहुंच जाऊंगा and I'll wing it. I'll be able to hit this shot. It's not going to happen. If you hit that shot a million times, you're not going to hit that shot.
You have to train. So that was table tennis, and then which college did you end up?
And then Sydenham.
Sydenham.
So again, sports also helped me in Sydenham.
And Sydenham and Podar were the two rival colleges,
NM.
Right? Yeah.
So actually, I'm an ex-student of NM also.
Oh.
I studied in NM for exactly 10 days. Before my admissions in Sydenham happened.
Okay.
And that 10 days, I realized that, okay, this is not my cup of tea.
Yeah,
it's a very strict college, time, and it was like...
So you got into Sydenham with sports quota? I got the same in Podar.
So I got 83.2, which was just about the cut. In those days, 83.2 used to be considered good in ICSE, right? And nowadays, I think it's almost you failed if you got 83.2.
I don't even remember.
Okay, so I got 83.2, and then what happened was, I got 10% more because of having played state level sports. So I said, पहले बताने का था, मैं इतनी पढ़ाई नहीं करता. I didn't have to study so hard, right? Because
and you took commerce, of course, in Sydenham. So what decided you to take commerce and not anything else?
See, I think I was very clear that I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Means I think there was no doubt in my mind. Means that option of taking a job somewhere just didn't exist, right? I wanted to spend 1 crore rupees a day, right? So that...
and never you wanted to join your family business, because, that could have been the easy option.
No, but the thing is that I did join the family business. So what happened was that I did join the family business, and it was amazing life, because you were working 5-day weeks. You had a chauffeur-driven car. You would go abroad every 1.5 months.
Why is that?
Because we are into 40 country exports. So we have exhibitions and you meet clients.
So what are all the Indian instruments?
All the Indian instruments. We do guitar wood, we do violin parts. And you would get a share of the profit. So that would come into your account. So that point in time, right? 20 years ago, I think, if I remember, it was 70,000-80,000 rupees a month.
Wow.
Right? That's like equivalent to 20 lakh rupees today. Right?
Exactly.
So you get that kind of money coming in a way, right? So I had a charm life, right? You would and I realized that, you know what? Okay, so how do I explain this story? So something that broke the camel's back, right, was an incident that happened where it was not having ambition, right? I would realize that their ambition wasn't there. They were happy with what they had, and a lot of people are happy with what they have. And I could just see myself that 20 years down the line, I'm going to be exactly in the same position. Because the problem with the industry is that, I think if I remember right, we had got an opportunity with Walmart, and they wanted 500,000 flutes as a trial order. If it worked well, they would want 5 million a month. We just couldn't produce consistent quality of even 100,000 flutes. Wow. They're made of bamboo, right? And anything less than 5 million, it would not be viable for them, right? So I realized that a lot of places, the limit is in the supply itself. So you can't be a billion-dollar company in musical instruments. I know that in the industry that I chose thereafter, I failed to create a billion-dollar company is because my capabilities were limited, right? But it was not because the industry was limited.
Correct. No, that's a very interesting way of looking at it, which is why today they sell each guitar for like $100,000.
You know, I read today, have you heard Gibson went bankrupt?
Oh, I didn't know.
Today's Economic Times. I was shocked.
Their guitars are like crazy expensive.
Exactly, right? They went bankrupt. They filed for bankruptcy. Today.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Wow. So it looks like more people just want to listen to rock but not buy the guitars.
So, Ali, what has happened is, right, if you just take a musician's life. Early days, a musician would go to a film set and they would have to play for 4 days. So each film would book them for 5 days. And you have 4 or 5 films constantly going. So you were gainfully employed, getting 1,000 rupees per day. So you had a very good life. Unfortunately, now what has happened is you call a sitar player or you call a good artist. You record all the tracks that he can play. And then you use that tracks, mix them, and they're used whenever you want without compensating the artist every time you use them. Especially if you're not the biggest artist, right? So what happens to that guy? So we've had to hire some of these guys who are working in our shop, working with us, and it's a sad life, right? So if you're not the number one, right? You're Zakir Hussain, it's a different story, right? You would make millions of dollars per year. But if you are the 10th best tabla player in India, like 10th best is still 10th best, right? 10th best guy in business is worth $1 billion.
Yeah. But
same context, right? But this guy will find it making his ends meet will be difficult.
Wow. That's a good way of looking at it.
Right.
So at what time you decided that you're not going to, or you quit the family business because you said you did join it at some point of time?
I think there was this moment where I realized that I'm going to lose my ambition because I will lose that I want to create this. And family businesses.
How old were you that time? This was like,
I was 23 and a half, 23.
How do you at 23 think about all these things, right? Ye time pe, nobody thinks about, I'm going to lose ambition and, all these things. Ye kya hai? I didn't get this.
So,
was somebody like prodding you or giving you some kida? Or how did
So actually, not exactly, right? So what happens is, right, when you're in that age, right, you want to change the world. And then you realize that you're in queue. By the time you get an opportunity to change the world, it could be 20 years, right? Because you have cousins, you have brothers, you have uncles, you have your dad, and it's a line hierarchical thinking, right? It's not going to be purely based on capability. It's going to be based on seniority in many cases, right? So the thing is that a lot of things that you have, and maybe they were not the right ideas for the business also, right? But then you realize that you will not get an opportunity to implement them. And honestly, my father had encouraged me and give me the thing that whatever you want to do. In fact, what he had asked me in a way was that don't leave the family business. Appoint a general manager. And when it picks up, then you leave the family business, because very ominously he had said that once you leave the family business, it is very difficult to join in. Right? So I actually went and announced to everybody that I'm leaving the family business. I will never come back. And this is it.
So you removed the...
burning the boats.
Exactly, right?
Burning the boats.
Burning the boats, right?
I said, I have a big ego.
Plan B. Your plan A is that plan B will... And plan A will be successful, right? Yeah.
So
sometimes having a backup is actually a bad thing.
It's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing because you are very easy. You are easy
I'm telling you now, there were at least 100 times in my life during my entrepreneurship journey where if I had a backup, I would have gone back. Like... in fact, I read one of the posts that you had made that entrepreneurs get struck by lightning every day and then they survive. It's like, it's so true, yeah, because I can think that there are 100 lightnings that have happened to all of us at different stages of our life, and every time you find a jugaad.
Every day. There's a fire every day, right? It's new kind of fire.
New kind of fire. So I think the early days was so tough. Yeah, because I came from a background where I thought that things work automatically. So, or shop and establishment license renew karna hai, or you do some regulatory filings, you do all these things, right? These things, 50, 60-year-old business is taken care of by the admin, right? Yeah. And now suddenly, you think that these things automatically are taken care of by somebody. You don't realize that these are things that you have to now do. Yeah. And it's a tough thing, right? I remember we started our office opposite this metro theatre. It was my uncle's office. So he was a chartered accountant. He had 35, 40-year-old, those taxation books. It had these wires hanging. There was no land in those days, so we used to have just land wires hanging. And mice used to walk and cross those wires. So I've told this before, but let's say, I remember I was interviewing this girl, and this rat was crossing the wire, right? And I was nearly sure he was juggling on top of it. He's going to fall on this woman, right? And I said that there's no chance she's going to join in if it falls on her, right? So luckily it didn't fall on her, and then she joined in. After 2 hours, she comes to me and she says that, Vivek, where's the women's loo? And suddenly it hit me that it just had a urinal. My uncle did not have any female employees. He didn't have a women's loo only. And now I've gone ahead and hired a girl and there's no loo in the office, right? So I said, just give me a moment. So I go out. I said, I'll go and bang my head outside the wall, not at least in front of her. That's what I'd gone out for. Suddenly I spot this Sri Krishna restaurant. So across the road, go there. I said, listen, I'm going to pay you so much per month. Can I have women employees come and use your loo? So he poor guy, he saw tears in my eyes. Yeah. He says, "Acha, theek hai, chalega." So I walk in confidently. He says, yeah, all our women employees go across to the restaurant out there. She doesn't know that was the first time we had hired a woman employee. By the way, she was the one who did the Muchhar Panola website.
Oh, fantastic.
So all the coordination.
So that company was called Communicate 2.
Yes.
So why Communicate 2 and not 1 and not 1.0 and not 5?
So actually it's a very embarrassing story. Most people don't know about it. I had thought of a name called Ultimedia.
Ultimedia.
Yeah, Ultimate Media, right? So Ultimate, my company, even till about a few years ago, we used to call Ultimedia E-Solutions Private Limited. Checks used to come in that, right? So I booked this domain name. And then what happened was, in those days, Google was pretty funny. So we were a search marketing company, but when you search for Ultimedia, first it said, do you mean multimedia? Right? And second thing, it would rank multimedia as, because they think that they made a mistake, right? So we would not find our own website, right? Then what happened was, somebody wanted to buy a domain name for $7,000. मैंने कहा sold. So I sold it. Okay. So he said अभी जो है उस समय I was reading this business 2.0 and all these business magazines everything. He says communicate 2.0 कर देते हैं and communicate 2 कर देते हैं. So that is how communicate 2 happened. But first I went and booked the domain name, the .com domain name, and then I booked it. I said that's how communicate 2 happened. But the original name was Ultimedia for some reason.
Google screwed up for you
very, very badly.
So communicate 2. And you ended up selling that business to iProspect. So
yes.
What was that story about and who's iProspect?
Okay. So basically it got sold in 2 tranches, right?
Oh.
The first thing didn't happen.
And I know who some of your early angel investors were. Jivraka, right?
Mr. Jivrajka, Mr. Vallabh Bansali.
Yeah, all these guys, right? They came in as early investors.
So what happened was in 2008, the deal was going to happen. So
you started in 97 and you ran Communicate 2 till almost 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
Wow.
Right. So
that's exactly, I ran India Games till 2012.
Exactly.
So 12 saal.
Right. So that 10 years, so 2008, we signed the deal. The final closure had not happened, but everything else was done. So we announced it in the press. We throw a party in Mayfair rooms. Call our clients that, you're going to get a lot of technology. Tell all our team members you're going to get a lot of money.
And whose iProspect is owned by whom?
It was owned at that point in time also with Aegis Media. Now it's become Denso Aegis Network.
Okay.
So that deal, because of Lehman Brothers crashed, they lost half the market cap in most markets. So all the banks, they had leverage of shares, right? So that basically they couldn't complete the deal. And they basically, I was being a rock and a hard place.
Wow.
So in fact, everything that I worked for, we were going to go bankrupt. It was that we were inches away from bankruptcy. We were just lucky that we got saved.
In 2008?
Yeah. And I think that, again, in hindsight, is the best thing that happened to us. Because first of all, it matured me as an entrepreneur. Because early when I had faced the dot-com crash, that time I was still a small company, not having that much of...
That time you had almost 300 employees, right? Or
yeah, so that time I had like 250 or 200 plus employees. So you have huge salary bills. You don't have capital. Google cut their... they used to give credit till about 90 days, then cut it to sharp 60 days. Our BFSI clients were 80% of our business.
I remember some of these guys didn't end up paying you.
No, they all paid me, but all of them stopped spending. I remember ICICI Bank used to have personal loans. They used to spend a few crores a month.
And I remember one of the large corporates.
Right? They reduced the spends, right? Because all the banks had to reduce it, right? Because at the end of the day...
And your entire business was from that sector.
From that sector. So I think that whole thing about transitioning from media to services, looking at net revenues instead of billing, building a consultative kind of an approach towards digital marketing, surviving those years, transforming the business. And then what happened was the same guys basically ended up buying us in 2012.
Oh, so 2008 it was announced but never done?
Never done. In 2012 it got done.
And was it the same team or different teams? Or
exactly the same team.
And they were like, we're very sorry. Was that the approach?
So I think what happened was that they were very honest, right? They were very honest. They said, listen, there's nothing wrong in your business per se.
Aegis Media was based where? They were based in...
So they were British, they listed in the British Stock Exchange.
Okay.
And then Dentsu acquired them. So it became Dentsu Aegis Network. Right? So they were being very transparent and honest, right? They said that this is not for us, we are not in the position now to complete our acquisitions. And these are the ways. And especially what had happened was that our projection obviously had gone awry, right? So we had said we do this, we were not able to do it. So it was not something that they were completely at fault. But I think I matured as an entrepreneur in those 4 years. I transformed the business. My earnout then became from 2012 to 2017, 2016, which is the best years of digital per se. We grew almost 12 to 15x in that 5-year period.
Wow.
Right? So I think I ended up making at least 10 times more money than what I would have made if I sold my company in 2008.
Amazing. And I think that's an interesting thing. Normally what happens is people don't stay in these merged entities or when they sell the company. Yeah. You are one of those few guys who's not just stayed there, but you have grown the business. And as you just said that you made 10x more. I mean, in my case, of course, while Disney is a great company, I was not going to stay there for long.
So I think one good thing that Dentsu has done globally, right? Almost 70% of the entrepreneurs who sell to Dentsu Aegis Network stay back. This percentage is in 20s in all the other networks.
Yeah, with WPP and all these guys, yeah.
Because the thing is that the freedom that you get of doing things, I can take decisions which are involving crores of rupees, right? As long as they're good from a judgment point of view and I've built enough credibility within the organization, I'm allowed to lead them, right? It's not that I'm a cog in the wheel. Right? With most of the other networks, you're a cog in the wheel.
So is it run from Japan or is it run from...
No, so that's what. I think the best thing that they did was that they acquired Aegis Media and they let the current leadership of Aegis Media run the global operations. Oh. So all the CEOs of Aegis Media became CEOs of the merged entity. So it's just phenomenal, which is very unlike Japanese companies, but that has added tremendous amount of shareholder value for everybody. And I think it's a very entrepreneurial network. In fact, our global CEO, Jerry Bullman, was acquired 15-20 years ago, and that's how he joined Aegis Media.
Wow.
So just imagine he's
but it's crazy to see how all these companies with WPP making its own empire by acquisitions. Of course, in their case, as you said, people don't stay. And now there is Dentsu Aegis, and then there was Publicis, right? Publicis is the third group. How many groups are there?
See, mainly, I think 5 to 6 groups control 90% of media worldwide. Right? And I think one of the things that I think Dentsu Aegis Network got it right was this one P&L culture. We're the only network which has one P&L per country. So the true collaboration of 25 entities that exist in India can come together because it's one P&L. That means, imagine if India misses their profit target, all 25 CEOs in the country don't get their bonuses. That's not the case with any other network. So your true collaboration really happens because everybody is in it together. So
are there 25 companies in India for Dentsu?
We acquired 12, 13 companies, right? So we acquired Fountainhead in events, we acquired Perfect Relations, we acquired digitally only, we acquired Web Chutney and Fractal, they build your website, we acquired them, we acquired Bot Consult. Isobar was built ground up by Shamsuddin Jisani, but that's also a pretty large company now. IP was an acquisition, iProspect was Communicate2. So you were asking IP, right? So IP is the largest performance agency in the world.
In the world?
Yes.
Wow.
44 of the 100 top retailers in US work with them. They must be spending about $2.5 billion plus with Google every year. And clearly 80 plus offices, or I think 50 plus offices all over the world. I think they are definitely the largest. So they've also had a strategy that they've gone into the markets and acquired the best. So every market they've gone in.
And in India, is there like a head of the Aegis Dentsu?
Yeah, Ashish Bhasin.
Okay.
So that's one thing, right? The best thing about Dentsu Aegis Network is there is one boss. This is Ashish Bhasin. He took a 50 people team and made it into a 3,500 people team in less than 9 years. From number 16 in the media ranking, which means nothing, to number 2 in this period. So he's able to get the people on board, he's able to merge all the acquisitions, retain entrepreneurs who have been acquired when their earnout is over. Brilliant. Means what he's done in the last 8-9 years is just unbelievable. Right?
And what has changed in the digital space in India from the 1997 to 2000, and then starting 2012, as you said, you saw 12 times the growth. What changed?
I think in hindsight, the crash that happened in 2008, 2009, right, was actually very useful for digital. See, what happened was that when you did not have TV budgets, what did you do? You had to do digital. And when you did digital, your sales grew, your brand track scores showed positive returns with 1/3 the money, and you realized that this is not so bad. So they never went back to conventional mediums with the same vengeance as earlier. Because earlier, digital would not get a chance to do these things, right? But you didn't have the budget, you had to do digital. And this was a result that a lot of CMOs saw. Second thing is that a lot of interest started coming from senior management. So earlier what would happen is, right, I've said this a million times before, you'll meet a promoter of a company. It's very exciting. You meet my CEO, meet my CMO, then VP marketing, then the management training. He was the guy who was accountable for digital, right? Now you meet the promoter and he meets with you on a one-to-one basis. He comes over to your house for a drink. He's the guy who wants to learn himself, right? He's not passing the thing. And these are the guys who can move the needle for an organization, right? So you can say there's an elephant in the room or that the emperor has no clothes. Earlier, you were basically crying on the shoulders of the management training. And you were saying that, one day I will become CEO. I say, I'll be on the wheelchair by the time you become a CEO. So what's the use, right? So that has changed. The management bandwidth that has gone in.
I think also
understanding
the growth
and learning.
of Facebook and Twitter and all these digital mediums in India, I mean, is insane, right? And
Absolutely.
people are, and with Reliance Jio and, the whole digital wave is kind of taken over India, right?
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Tell me, in this era, does it make sense for somebody to start a new agency? Because one of the big problems is that all these networks are acquiring people, but has it left any room for any new entrepreneurs to set up agencies or shops like this?
See, I think there are benefits of being a small agency, and you can service a certain number of clients. But I think what happens is that it's becoming tougher and tougher. Right? So you have to find out this niche positioning, how are you going to differentiate yourself. So I'll give you an example, right? We acquired a company in US called Merkle. Merkle was a $1.5 billion acquisition. So we have 1,000 plus data points for 270 million adult Americans through data partnerships that we would have with credit card companies and loyalty programs and everything. And that would give us maybe 7,000-8,000 other data points. So theoretically speaking, I can target these people with media based on their preferences, their likes, all the privacy things that you talk about. But fact of the matter is, somebody who has this kind of data, right? And Facebooks of the world have it, Googles of the world have it. But companies like networks, like if you've made this acquisition and paid $1.5 billion for it, we have much more effective advertising capabilities. Now they're going to replicate this and build it globally. So a small agency, for them to have access to technology, having a data scientist, having these capabilities.
Possible, yeah.
So I think the challenge that larger networks face is that as we grow larger, we're not able to give the same amount of time as senior management into day-to-day implementation. So we actually have sort of created a structure. So 3 companies report into me. So I prospect Merkle Socrati and SVG Media. We started a new company called Consult, which basically is a vehicle where we can get senior management out of the 3,500 people, out of the 1,800 digital people, the best guys, to work with clients, but as consultants. So somebody has to create a vehicle that can actually drive this. So now what happens is that theoretically, I want 2 hours of the CEO of one company to work with us on a project, I can get him to work on it because this entity drives it.
The Vishal Gondal Show will be right back after this break.
Every week comes a show where 3 people come together to tell you about stuff they like. A movie, a TV show, a book, and other stuff. Tune in every Monday on the IVM Podcast app to IVM Likes.
IVM Likes is brought to you by Setu IMAX.
So tell me something. I mean, you have now been part of so many acquisitions in India. How are companies valuing these agencies? Because these agencies would have turnover from, 50 lakhs to maybe 5-10 crores. I don't see typically these smaller agencies to have turnovers bigger than this, right?
No. Every acquisition we've done is significantly larger than this. Because, see, when you're a multinational, right, you need to
No, I'm saying
acquire.
that at what stage do you acquire a company? What turnovers do you look for?
So I think we would look at companies that have about 15-20 crores of profit.
Profit.
Right?
Oh.
We will have 200-300 people, team members. Right? Because it doesn't move the needle for us else, right? We have 1,800 digital professionals. So we would acquire a smaller company if they have very, very niche specialization in something which we don't have skill sets in, right? But other than that, if you're a general digital marketing company, then if you're not having 15-20 crores of profit, you're too small for us.
Having 20 crores of profit, they need to have 100 crores, 200 crores of billing or more actually.
Yeah, much more than that.
Yeah, much more than
Most
that.
of them will have billing of 300-400 crores.
400 crores. Because the problem right now is that, which is part of the challenge, right? That I don't see many of these bigger agencies coming in. These are like small boutiques who work with 5-10 clients.
Yeah. So it's going to be a challenge for them for sure. Because
And also the ad tech market is completely changed, right? The ad tech companies are not getting any funding right now. There's a lot of challenge around
it's a big
whole
challenge, right?
ad
Because
tech
what happens
space.
is that, unfortunately, what has happened is like a winner-take-all philosophy, right? So what happens is the winners are taking it all, and it's very difficult to create that differentiation where you have a technology which nobody else has. Because they have the users, they can probably re-engineer the technology pretty quickly.
So what is your take on this whole debate going on with Facebook and Zuckerberg and how, all this mass level behavior modification is happening? Because the culprit is, they all talk about advertisers, right? And you saw at TED, the whole discussion was that 2 people are having a conversation when the third person is going to pay money to modify your conversation, right? The advertiser right now.
So, see, I have a different view, right? My view is very simple. That data is used to make things more effective. So will data be used to make advertising more effective? Yes. Now, if you take, is data privacy important? Yes. But the fact of the matter is that privacy of hospital records, privacy of banking statements and banking information, all this is significantly more important than you seeing a more appropriate ad. So let's take the actual thing, right? If you take financial markets or you take banks, they have large business intelligence teams. They analyze customers, they see their bank statements, they see all the transactions they do. Based on that, they cross-sell and upsell products, right? And the fact of the matter is, these hundreds of people are working on business intelligence. People like TCS has 10,000 business intelligence people, so BI experts. What do? They use data to create some actionable insight. So coming back to advertising,
sell
right?
is different, but
Okay.
what
So now-
Facebook is doing is they are not only making you sell, but they are almost trying to influence
No,
your...
so let's say, right, now I'm saying, right, all that aside, now we take advertising. Because I know you better, I show you an ad of a product that you still have to click on. You click on it, then you go to some place, and then you still find that the thing is appropriate for you, and then you buy that product, right? And then you say that I was falsely influenced. But the same guy will walk into a mall and end up buying things that he can't afford. Right? The fact of the matter is that if you are a person who's going to buy...
I think the debate is slightly different, right? The debate is that today if I see all my friends suddenly wearing a particular t-shirt, or a particular brand of, you're using a particular brand of bags, and then I see all people talking about it, and then I see every ad about it, I am definitely more influenced to buy it. So what Facebook and networks like this can do is suddenly show what your friends are doing, what this guy is doing, and then suddenly if you click on an ad somewhere, that ad follows you everywhere. So it is almost become a place like the ad will haunt you till you don't buy the product.
But Vishal, I'm telling you one thing, right? Let's put it this way. In all ways, this was always there, right? Earlier you used to follow celebrities and you would buy what the celebrity was buying. And the celebrity would come and tell you that buy this, and then you would go blindly and buy it. The fact of the matter is, advertising has been there forever. All I'm trying to say is that data privacy and influencing advertising is the least of the problems of data privacy. We're going to see horrors of data privacy into 10,000 other things which are much more dramatic and drastic.
I think the
right?
point here
and if you ask me, in a way, right, I think this all controversy about Facebook has just proved that it's a very effective medium for advertising.
Absolutely right.
So that's the reason the quarterly revenues have actually gone up,
so
right?
The point, actually the problem is not that. The problem is that it has gone so effective that it can influence behavior, and politicians are now using it to their, all kinds of people, good and bad, can use these tools for all kinds of behavior modification, I think, which is the crux of the problem. Anyway, that's not our discussion. The discussion here is, how have you made your millions using this? So you've sold your company first in 2000...
No, so that didn't get sold. I sold my company in 2012.
2012. But actually what you are saying is your big payout came in over the years, which you kind of did.
Yes. So generally what they do is, right, they acquire you over a 5-year period. And let's say suppose your value is 100 and they pay you a certain amount of money and they acquire it. Based on the growth of the company, you can make a lot more in the process, right? And there is always a cap because it's a listed company. But I almost hit that cap, which is almost impossible to hit. So the fact of the matter is that they motivated you to make sure that, you hit that gap and you really work hard in growing the company.
No, but do you then feel like an employee, or do you feel like an entrepreneur?
See, I think what I've seen is that the mindset, right? I've always believed that you can control any company with 1% equity and not control the same company with 95% equity. Control is about capability. So if your mindset is very clear, right, that you are capable, you'll be able to control any company that you want to. You don't have to own a stake to control a company.
And I think this is a big people have this big confusion on stake, right? Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and
it's about management control.
And entrepreneurship is a mindset. I think entrepreneurship is not what position. Again, if you take today, right, I've started a new company within Dentsu, which has grown exponentially. It's almost as big as some of the agencies in the network in a period of 7 months.
Which company is this?
It's called
Consulto.
Right. So you've got 6 big clients. Some of them are a couple of $1 million in fees. Pure net revenue fees.
Wow.
Right. That's the fees they're paying us. And these are clients which are huge clients that we book.
And why did you not think of starting this or funding a startup to do this? Why did you...
See, what I've realized is, right, there's only so much happiness money can buy. Right. The fact of the matter is, let's say, I'm just doing some loud thinking. Let's say, suppose you have 50 crores more in the bank. What is the change I'm going to make to my lifestyle because of additional 50 crores?
That comes back to your 4X philosophy.
Exactly, right? So now the thing is, I'm getting to do exactly what I love.
No. So I want to dwell into the 4X philosophy. But before that, I just want to kind of end the story at 2012. So 2012, you slogged your ass till 2008. Everything went to hell. You then rebooted yourself, and then those same guys 4 years later came in and acquired the company. And that was, as I said, 9 out of 10 people would normally not stay, right? They would be there for a year or so and move on. So first of all, what got you to stay there for long? And you were saying that's the culture and everything else of Dentsu. So, but I think then something else happened in your life, right? Because I remember clearly that you are a different person, I know, in the last 5, 6, 8 years than what you were before. I think that time you were, very like running your company, very tensed, always drawn to something. And now you are roaming the world, showing your socks. You are playing table tennis. You are, hobnobbing with, going to random courses. I know you go to this course in Canada once a quarter. You buy random things. You have all these amazing. I mean, your
news anchoring course.
you have this collection of single malts. You're doing news anchoring. You're doing. I don't know. I mean, you're doing so many things. So tell me what changed. वो क्या हुआ? क्या गड़बड़ हुआ 2012?
So I think, Vishal, what happens is, right, I think there are different phases of your life where you do.
And when did you get married? You got married in which year?
This is 1997. I was naive enough to get married and start a new company at the same time.
Wow.
So it was.
Okay, so I thought that also happened in life.
So I think, you know what? I think different phases of your life, different things give you success. So at points of time, 18 hours work days give you success. Then you reach a phase of your life where innovation and strategic thinking and the ability to see what's going to happen in the future give you success. In certain points of your life, the networks that you have and people that you know give you success. So it's very important that you realize that the mantra that you have for success, it is not lifelong. You have to know what kind of strengths are going to give you success in that phase.
Is the journey, not the destination.
Exactly,
right? I mean, it is enjoying the journey.
Exactly, right? So the thing is that if at this point of time, right, if I would work 18-hour days and do exactly what I was doing 20 years ago, like, I'll be a mediocre guy, right? Today, I have the ability to have a conversation with somebody who's worth $5 billion. That 1 hour conversation is going to be much more valuable to me than putting in 500 hours doing coding. It's you to be very clear. So, and I think one thing that changes when you sell your company is, right, I think most of our lives, finance and money becomes a very integral part of our life, because that's what traditionally you consider success, right? And I think you are just focused on achieving that. And when you achieve that, you suddenly realize that, there is no end to that achievement. And then you realize that there are so many other areas of life which also can be success, right? So I actually have goals across adventure. I have goals across learning new things. I have goals across fitness. I have goals across how I'm going to build better rapport and relationship with people. I would have goals that...
You have these are defined, measurable goals.
Absolutely. So I would have a goal that I would...
No wonder you're running the best performance marketing company in the world. You have a goal.
But the funny part is...
for everything.
Funny part is that I think there are two things that people do wrong in goals. One is that they set the goal and then they and they tell people about it. So in fact, I was listening to this TED talk where it says that if you want to achieve your goals, you should not tell people about it.
You don't tell it. In fact, I thought that was the exact opposite.
Exactly opposite.
You have to announce the world.
So what happens
That is what Tim Ferriss says, by the way. That's the Tim Ferriss philosophy.
This TED talk was very interesting. It says that what you should do is, if you announce it, right, that I'm going to run the marathon, then that just announcing gives you some kind of satisfaction. You always feel good about it. And then
but then not doing it gives you a shame, right?
So but that's what. So what happens is that most people will forget that you said this, right? Because your life is not their life. So what happens is, over a period of time, right, it'll be forgotten and you may not. So the way you should say it is that I want to run the marathon. For that, I'm going to run 2 hours every day. And ever you caught me napping on that, then please remind me. So you're delaying the satisfaction. The marathon is a goal, but you're setting a discipline. So what I do is that when I have a goal, I would have discipline for each of those goals. So if I say I want to be the best in my industry, so how am I going to do that? I'm going to read 50 books in a year. I'm going to do this courses in a year. I'm going to do this in a year. And then those become disciplines. So what happens is the goal is forgotten. If I follow these disciplines...
basically, these are called small habits. Exactly, right? So you are developing those habits, which is the beginning.
So instead of saying I'm going to be, theoretically speaking, I'm going to reach this goal from a weight or fitness point of view, I'll say, what, I'm going to work out 350 days in a year. Right? Then I have very clear, the discipline is set up. Right? So I either will go and play table tennis or I'll go to the gym. Some days I'll do both. So then that number will be achieved. If you achieve that number, then you'll meet your fitness goal. Right? So what happens is if you set up disciplines...
So when did you first think of this philosophy? Because, like as I said, you sold your company in 2012, but then you started doing things in a particular way. I remember you talked about the car you wanted, the house you wanted. You had kind of planned, everything.
Actually, it's very interesting. My father was on the ventilator. I was in the hospital. And every night they would shut off the lights, I think 8 p.m. Right? And you can not sleep before 11 o'clock. So that's a very emotional moment of your life. And you see somebody my father was the closest person in my life, right? And you know that he's on the ventilator, things don't look good. So I thought to myself, what should be my purpose in life? What should I basically aim for? Because once your financial goals are achieved, then you per se can choose what you do. Mm-hmm. So that's the time when I said that I want to basically focus on happiness. I will increase joy and happiness in my life every single second, every single minute, every single hour of my life. So I'm going to do everything that increases joy and happiness. And then I said, okay, what are the things that actually give me joy and happiness? So I said, okay, learning gives me joy and happiness. Per se, table tennis gives me joy and happiness. And, I would like to be physically fit, because that would be the sure thing that depresses you is when you're unwell, right? When you're well, you don't notice it, but when you're unwell, you wish that you were well, right? So I said, okay, what are the things? And then I said, okay, now I'll use that to set these BHAGs, but then I'll work backwards and I'll set up disciplines. And as long as I follow these disciplines, things will happen. But I think that was a turning point. That what are the 7-8 areas of my life that I need to work on?
And did somebody tell you to do this, or what prompted?
See,
this?
I've always been a voracious reader, right? So I've always read. So I've read Robin Sharma. I've done these courses in Toronto by this guy called Dan Sullivan. He's a 72-year-old management guru who basically has been doing these courses for 25-30 years.
Wow!
Right. So people who have been attending this quarterly workshop of his for like 20 years.
Wow!
So that's the kind of thing. So I've always been interested in this. So the data was always there, but I knew what has to be done. But I had just not
written down. So you read a lot of these self-help books in a way.
Yeah, I do a lot. Mm-hmm. And then I started working on it. So, and what I realized was that, simple things, right? I think if I just play table tennis in the morning, I feel that the whole day becomes more productive, because you set up your tone from morning into this thing that you got to do things fast. It's a fast sport, right?
Boost early
right?
Morning,
and suddenly what happens is you're not in a hurry to get things done, because you're already, the day started that way, right? Because you're hitting the top spin, you're hitting the thing, and you've got that thing. So then what happens is that your entire day becomes more productive because you started off with TT. So I've seen that all these things that I've done now are actually tremendously helping my entire business. It is making me a better entrepreneur, it's making me a better leader, it's allowing me to achieve more things. So I may be spending less time at work, but I'm achieving a lot more because of these disciplines that I've set up in my life.
Mm-hmm. And then how did the 4X philosophy come here? And how could you 4X everything you have? What was the concept behind that?
Okay, so this is a very interesting story. I met this guy who was a dollar billionaire 20 years ago. And random one things he was talking about, he said that, Vivek, people increase their lifestyle incrementally. You have 100 rupees salary, your expenses are 80 rupees. Your salary becomes 130, you take your expenses and make it 100 from 80 to 95. And you keep on doing this the rest of your life. So you have the incremental growth the rest of your life. And if something goes down and your now lifestyle is 130, but your salary was 150 and you lose your job, then you have to come down. So basically what happens is it's a very traumatic period for most people. So I have always, done these lifestyle jumps which are significantly higher. So I love the idea. I made a lot of changes to it. So this was like a 10-second thing that he told me, right? And I said that, what? This 4X philosophy is very simple. It's about material things. And the philosophy is very simple, that every single material thing that I own, either I will not upgrade it. So I'll keep wearing the same thing that I have, or the same car that I have, or whatever house I'm living in. But if I do decide to upgrade it, it has to be minimum 4X in terms of the commercial value of the product. So every single thing, right from the shirt that you wear, to the car that you have, to the house that you have, the watch that you have, everything has to be 4X and above. So I'll tell you what are the biggest benefits of this, right? The first benefit is there's something called hedonic adaptation. So hedonism, they say, right? So what happens is that when you go from a 100 rupee car to 120 rupee car, within a week, you'll forget that you bought a new car. Right? But when you go from 100 to 500, even after months and after years, you will still feel that joy because the difference is so big. So hedonic adaptation reduces. So, you had a great view. But if it's just a little bit better than what you had previously, within 2 weeks you'll forget you have a great view. But if your jump is significantly higher, then the hedonic adaptation sort of doesn't set in. So you get joy from the same thing 100 times more for decades instead of weeks. Right? Second thing is, when you have this goals of getting these things, right? So I know what my next watch is going to be. I know what my next something is going to be. I know what my next something is going to be. So everything is planned, right? So then the laws of the universe, the secret, whatever you would call it, these things work and they make sure that you get it.
Wow.
Third thing is, I think all the decisions that you take, right, become very purposeful. There is no instant gratification, right? I would never walk into a mall and say, oh, they are chai-le-lo. Right? So what happens is, you will never ever end up buying things that you don't use or you don't need, because the fact of the matter is everything is purposely planned, right? You're buying a car, it'll be researched. You're buying a watch, it'll be researched. Everything will be researched, planned, and then bought. But I think a lot of people confuse this to be a spending philosophy. Actually, the ironic part is, it is actually a saving philosophy. So imagine, right, when 2008 to 2012, I went through the worst period of my life. So what happened was that in most cases, people would have to downgrade a lot of things that they had in life. But you know what? Every single thing that I have, right, I was building this buffer for 4x. So I was trying to buy a 4x house. I was trying to buy a 4x car. I was trying to buy a 4x shoes. I was trying to buy a 4x watch.
It is not a philosophy which came in 2012.
No, 20 years I followed it.
20 years?
Yeah. So
wow.
I didn't move my house for 17 years because I wanted to move into a 4x house.
Wow.
The next one happened after 3 years after that.
And where is your 4x house? You're in Worli somewhere, right?
No, so in Prabhadevi.
Prabhadevi, right.
But then I got the BKC one, which both of us have. Yeah. That's again a 4X on the Prabhadevi
one. Yeah, the Suntec property, the white elephant.
Yeah, so this, but it's a great place. I think the Suntec is a great place.
Yeah, place.
And I think one place that I think is going to increase in value is, I think, is going to be Suntec. Yeah. The sales pitch for Suntec guys.
Yeah, we are both
because our prices will go up, right? But that happened in 3 years. But every single thing I've followed, right? So just imagine, when I went through that downturn, I didn't have to downgrade anything. See, you go facing stress at work. When you come home, you don't want stress. And the worst that can happen is that your family gets stressed about your financial...
but this just goes against my gaming philosophy. It's all about leveling up. It's all about leveling up and going up and up and up. And, you are saying it's not about leveling up. It's about like being at level 1, but then directly going to level 10 and then directly going to level 20.
So see, what happens is, right, when you're talking about commercial objects, and the purpose is to increase the joy that you feel from it. Right? It's very different from a person who's selling something to somebody and he wants him to get these incremental joys for eternity. Right? So I'm very clear, right? So if you take joys also, there is serotonin and there is, dopamine, right? Yeah. So this is a combination of serotonin and dopamine. So let me give you an example, right? What happens is, serotonin is something that when you meditate, you get serotonin, right? And dopamine is something which is like...
And serotonin is also about, the group. It's more to do, and when you donate, it's the donors.
Exactly. So I'll give you an example, right? I think this philosophy also makes you generous. So I'll give you an example, right? So every time when I'm at a certain level, so if I'm having a 25-year-old malt, if an intern of iProspect comes to my house, that's the malt he's going to drink. And a CEO of some company comes, he's going to be the same malt. So it doesn't depend on who's coming to the house.
So you don't have like 4 different malts every time you go to... So which is, by the way, your current 4X malt?
So right now I'm still stuck with 25-year-old malts.
Okay, so then how do you go to 100-year-old malts?
So see what happens is, right?
Are they 100-year-old malts?
So this also, sets priorities very clear.
Okay.
So what happens is that when you do these 4X things, right, you automatically, it's never for somebody else, it's for you. Right? So what happens is that, let's say, for me, right, I think malts, right, I've had 40 malts and I can't make out the difference. Between a 12 and a 25 I can make out difference. But 25 and 40 I can't make out a difference. But the price of 40 is 4x of 25. Right? So I don't think I'll ever go to 40-year-old malts. But speakers, right? I have these Gamut M5 speakers which are Danish speakers which are like cost 30 lakh rupees. But there is these speakers that cost 1.5 crore rupees. Right? And there are these speakers that cost $3 million.
God, so, you want to buy them?
Yeah, so if I can afford it, right? So that's what. My upgrades in some things that are close to my heart will happen till infinity. But some things, let's say if I'm happy with a $300 shirt, theoretically speaking, right? it's never going to be like a $5,000 shirt, right? It doesn't make sense. Some things you reach the pinnacle very quickly. But a house, right? You can have a 500 crore house if you want to. But I'm just saying that, see, you just resist the temptation of doing an incremental upgrade.
I think it's also, in a way, asking people to aim higher. I mean, that's what...
It makes you ambitious, yeah.
It makes you ambitious, right?
Makes
because a lot of times people are like, I have achieved this, abhi aur kya, you know. And what you're saying is that, listen, you know, your next level needs to be 4x. So it's kind of...
Yeah, and automatically, right? Because what happens is every single thing, right? Now the thing is, if I've got the Sunteka house, if I want to do a 4x of that, it's not going to be easy, right? I may meet my maker before I achieve that thing, but it has to be that or nothing, right? It's not going to be that I'm going to buy a little bit more expensive house now. So every single thing that you said.
Which are the products you have already hit your ceiling according to you?
No, I think in most apparel things, shoes, all the stuff, I think I would have hit the ceiling long time back. Technology products, I don't even have a ceiling, right? So what happens is, I buy the latest thing that is there, and that's about it,
you
right?
Can't 4x
so you can't 4x. So I'm not going to like keep using an iPhone 3 till the time like 4x of that comes out, right? So that you hit the thing.
Actually, my philosophy is becoming ulta. I'm buying cheaper phones every year because the cheaper phones are better than the...
Yeah, it makes sense.
So I'm using the Xiaomi, and that's what people laugh at.
I'm using a Pixel,
yeah,
so
and I'm like,
not the cheapest, but it's not the 10.
Only an idiot will buy the iPhone X because I can get better features on my Xiaomi. And here is a plug for Xiaomi that it is at $12,000 you can buy a phone every month and then buying an iPhone X.
Absolutely. Like my daughter bought the 10 and whatever X. I would like a Pixel, which is significantly cheaper than the X.
Significantly better features at least, right? My point is...
And first of all, you know, like the Google AI understands you. I believe that Siri is racist towards Indians.
Yeah.
So it doesn't understand you half the times. And the thing is, from feature point of view, the camera point of view, and all features point of view.
Open ecosystem, ecosystem is open. Trying to just take your data out of an iPhone to another device is the biggest nightmare you would ever face.
And just imagine, right? If you just take the ecosystem also, right? Google Home came out years ago. You take a Daydream, virtual reality came out years ago.
Let's not bitch about Steve Jobs. I think Steve Jobs is great because he had a complete opposite philosophy than you if you look at Steve Jobs, right? He was all about minimalism. And by the way, in my personal opinion also, I'm following minimalism. In fact, I'm trying to buy cheaper things. I buy the most, I have the only one shoes which are red and I don't have any clothes. I only have 5 red t-shirts and you saw that, you know, I travel with the most.
No, but the thing is,
so there's this minimalism.
No, but you know what happens is, right? When I say 4x, it is always to do with you. So to do with the things that you are passionate about, right? So you go for TED. TED is probably 4x of all the other conferences
people have gone to. Conferences,
exactly, right? So what happens is, I'm in a Singularity University. Again, it's 4x for other conferences. So 4x for me, I think most material things, right, are less of 4x now for me. But let's say if I want to go into space, it's going to cost me a few $100,000, right? So it's really an experience.
So have you booked your tickets yet?
So I haven't booked it yet. Because I went to the site and they said that these are things.
So we have to do Blue Origin.
So you know what? I was reading, there are a lot of things on Earth that I haven't done as yet.
No, but if you have to book, let me know. I am trying to book on Blue Origin.
Done.
The other one was Virgin Galactic. They wanted 100,000, but I'm not very confident on Virgin Galactic doing it. But Blue Origin is Bezos's company.
Oh, yeah, Bezos. Yeah, there's a Bezos.
That's Bezos's company. And if there's anybody who can do it, I think it's Elon Musk or Bezos. Elon has not yet announced his space tourism program.
Again, for me, I think, as I said, all my 4Xs now are becoming more experiences rather than material things. But yeah, there are material things like speakers. I will keep on upgrading my speakers till the time I can afford to whatever amount, right? So,
I think one thing I really like about this philosophy really is that it is about ambition. It is the 4x,
and it's
just a parameter. It's a way to measure it.
I'll give you an example. Like if you don't like 4x of a certain thing, you'll reach that pinnacle very quickly, right? Some of the things have reached pinnacle very quickly, right? Like food, for an example, right? I reached pinnacle of that very quickly. Yeah. Because I'm not into...
No, and I think now, for example, all you have to do is buy an airline, have a private aircraft, right? I mean, you've reached the pinnacle, for example, in flying. You know, yes, I mean, in a way, that's how you are looking at it.
Exactly, right? Just like, and the fact of the matter is that the funny part is, today, commercial airlines, first class, is a better experience than a private jet if you take the time thing out.
Actually, yeah. So maybe the 4X may not be worth owning an aircraft.
Exactly, right? It's like, so the fact of the matter is that I'm happy with where I am in many of the things, but I think experiences are going to be endless. I think they're, even learning, right? So let's say tomorrow, can I have a one-to-one session with gurus of certain things, right? If there was a thing where somebody like a Jeff Bezos or a Elon Musk, you get a chance to spend 2 hours with him, and like how Warren Buffett auctions his thing, and they start an auction, like I'll pay $100,000 for that 1 hour, right? So that's an experience that money can't buy right now, but if it could buy, like Warren Buffett does that, right?
Yeah,
Every year,
the lunch with him.
So the thing is that those are kind of experiences that I'll pay for. There'll be 4x more than, or 10x.
So one of our friends at TED, Manoj Prabhani, is the guy who did this. So he's really famous for that. And then he started, so he comes to TED every year. I'll introduce you next time. So his story is that he started then a fund which mimics the same philosophy as Warren Buffett.
Wow.
And he's on TED every year, and he's the first, I think he's the only Indian, if I'm not mistaken, who did this with, he bought the gala charity thing with Buffett.
Wow.
So that's an amazing story he has.
So again, I've shifted most of those things, non-material things, but yeah, I have enough material goals also.
Yeah, and I think, what you say makes sense. Like, say, one of the reasons I go to now TED every year, even though it's ridiculously expensive, is because every person you meet there is 4x to 10x smarter
than you. But even Singularity University, right?
Exactly.
I did 4.5 days of Singularity University is really expensive.
Yeah.
And even like I'm a part of organizations, right, that are 4x of many of the other organizations. But then you meet people, right? See, you are an average of people you spend time with.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you spend time with people who are significantly bigger than you, then you're going to become bigger.
If you're spending time with people who complain about everything, that's what you will end up doing.
So that's one thing I've done about happiness, right? I'm very clear that every single thing that I do is going to increase joy in my life, or I'm not going to do it. So any person who basically, so somebody asked me that, so I said I want to spend time with people who are joyful, happy, optimistic. So he says, how do you know the person is positive? So this Dan Sullivan guy, right, in Canada told me, he said that people who generally talk about the future are positive people. People who generally talk about the past are negative people.
Wow.
So simple, right?
That's a good
balance. He said, अभी तो बहुत बड़ा आदमी हो गया है, तेरे पास मेरे लिए time नहीं है. I say, yes, ditto. Thanks for telling me this, because now I'll never spend time with you. Because you're a negative guy.
Exactly.
Right? You come and tell me that, listen, Vivek, you achieved this, I want to do this, and in the next 5 years I want to do this. I would love to pick your brains on it. Let's meet. I would love to meet you. Because you told me you're a positive guy. You're thinking of the future. Right? You want to remind me something that happened 20 years ago, and you want to bitch about how I'm now not spending time as much as I should spend time with you 20 years ago.
That's I've never thought about it in this way, but I think it's an amazing way to look at people, right? People who talk about future are generally more positive versus people who are talking about the past. Wow, that's a new thing I have learned, man. That's amazing, Vivek. So what are the other such things you learned from guys like Dan Sullivan, right? I mean,
so I think,
because I just can't do this, right? Going to a course every quarter to Canada, you literally used to fly there for like 2 days, right? How long is the course?
2 days.
2 days.
Okay, so see, learning, so again, in my, if I would say life hacks, right, I think learning is the top of the list.
That's the best investment you can make on yourself.
In fact, Warren Buffett once was answering a question, how do you combat inflation? So he says you combat inflation by becoming a better doctor than what you are today, becoming a better entrepreneur than what you are today, a better lawyer than what you are today. If you invest in yourself, that investment is going to beat inflation. Right?
Absolutely.
Right? And the thing is the appropriate answer. So I learned, one is to become a better what I am. So I did a speed reading course. I did a news anchoring course. I did this Dan Sullivan course. I did a Singularity or a TED. It's just investing in myself.
Acting,
right?
You've done dancing.
Dancing and that acting I did early days. I've done that also. Right? But the thing is that I feel that learning gives me joy. But what I've seen is that don't have a ROI objective from learning. Because you know that Steve Jobs says, like, connecting the dots. I did a news anchoring course which made me better in front of a camera, which actually helped me when I did the Walt TV show in front of the camera, because I knew what per se I was doing wrong earlier before that, right? So there was no plans of being on television when I did that course. This Walt show happened 2 years after I did the course. Right? Now Dan Sullivan somebody had told me, so I said, I'll give everything a shot once. I'll say like, I'll invest a certain amount of money. So a lot of people have goals of how much money they're going to make. I actually have goals of how much money I'm going to spend. I have spending goals every year, and almost 20-30 lakh rupees a year I'm going to spend on learning. Right? Now, at a speed reading course, I would have a 3-hour one-to-one video chat with somebody, paying $300 for it. But my speed went up from 350-400 words a minute to 900 words a minute. Right? Just spending 3 hours on that one course.
Wow.
Right? So I feel that what I learned from Dan Sullivan was that entrepreneurs who want to grow 10x, right, they have to do a lot of things differently. And one of the things is they have to spend time with positive people. Their team members, their clients. It's just very simple, even with clients. If you have a negative client, fire him. You need to have positive clients because you'll grow 10x with those guys. So one of the life hacks that I have is learning.
Pessimism is just so bad. Even I can't tolerate people who are pessimistic. I'm here to find out 100 ways on how things can happen, not the one way how it can't happen. Yeah. And invariably you meet these people who will just go on these 5 ways or 2 ways.
So let's put it this way, right?
Things go wrong. And I'm like,
they are needed. The only thing is that if all of us basically design a plane, we need somebody who's going to design the parachute.
No, but my point is
we
that
don't need them in our lives.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, part of the problem is, and I think this is the unfortunate part of us entrepreneurs, right? We have to meet these investor type people who are always trying to poke hole in your business and always trying to say risk and always trying to say, what if your competitor is going to do this, or what if this market will change, or what if some regulation will change? And I'm like, dude, nobody knows what's going to happen.
It's like the story that I remember, right? He says that somebody asks you that, you're on this ship and the storm comes. So what do you do? So I'll throw the anchor. He says, what if a bigger storm comes? He says, I'll throw a bigger anchor. He says, like, what if a even bigger storm comes? So I'll throw even a bigger anchor. He said, where the fuck are you getting all these anchors from? He says, same place where you're getting the storms from.
Absolutely
so
right.
The fact of the matter is that there is no end to that pessimism, right? So I think that, so again, learning is something which is one of my life hacks. I think the second life hack, in a way, it's slightly ironic, but I think, integrity and trusting people, I would say, is a life hack for me. So they did actually a very interesting survey of entrepreneurs. What are the things that make them successful? And nobody could guess it. Hard work, passion, all those things came. But integrity was on top of the list. So many times what I feel is, right, that people underestimate its value. Like when we got acquired, we had such a transparent reputation that gave us a significantly higher valuation, because that's something which every single person stood by me and said that, okay, no point of time I've ever heard anything negative about Vivek. Right? In fact, I still remember my father had told this to me. I was going through a phase where our competitors were doing things which were not above the board. And I told my father that if your competitor does something which is, let's say, questionable integrity, how do you compete? Should you also do some of the things which he's doing? So my father said that, scarcity creates value. The more scarce integrity becomes, the more valuable it will become. You just continue doing what you do. Trust me, it'll become more valuable. And the fact of the matter, it really served me well. Served me well in those times. It allowed us to become the largest and the best performance agency in the country. And I think there are times where we've gone off our way and helped clients, paid them money back which they didn't know existed. Because Google had given some click fraud refund which nobody knew about. We went and refunded those monies to the clients. Because I said, like, how are you refunding this? He said that, this is what it is. He says, and they were surprised, right? And we couldn't even refund the entire amount because we said we'll pay you monthly because we don't have money. But we owe you. We want to tell you we owe you. We'll pay you.
But how do you make this? I mean, you said that integrity is important, but how do you then, as a life hack, integrity of yourself, your organization, or people around you?
Everything. So, an example, right? You said an example, right? I went through really tough times in 2008, 2009, and I used to have people who we couldn't pay in time, right? At no point in time, you could give a call to the office where you would not get connected to me. Because if I had said to my assistant once, usko bol do main nahi hu, right? After that, you can't have integrity in the office, right? At no point of time, right, we would ever lie to a client. Right? We would always be transparent and truthful to the client. And I think that is how, culture is built. So even the toughest times, you have to be very clear. I told them very clearly that, listen, my first priority is going to be employee salary. Second priority is going to be Google, because everything else shuts off if I don't pay Google. Third priority is you. I will get paid last. But these two are going to get paid before you. Right? Because if I don't pay either of these guys, the company closes down. Then you won't get the money in any case. And they all supported us when we went through tough times, because they were very clear. At no point in time we had ever lied to them. Investors, I was very transparent and honest with the investors right from the beginning, and we would tell them the bad news first every single time. Right? So I feel that you have to build a life around integrity.
So apart from, one, of course, you talked about learning, you talked about being with positive people, you talked about integrity. I see you travel a lot. So how is that travel and your sport also linked to this somehow?
Yeah. So see, what I've realized is, right, that learning can't happen sitting in one location. Because learning happens when you meet people from different cultures, from different countries, who have different thoughts, they've grown up in different environments. And all these things can really, really help you transform some of the things that you do per se in India. So I feel that, first of all, I love it. So I'm fond of traveling. But I feel that from a learning point of view, I've learned a lot more. So even if you take TED, right, I think 50% of the learning happens from people that you meet at TED and the conversation you have with them rather than from the stage. Right? You agree, right?
Absolutely.
Right? So the thing is that...
And you hang out with all the positive people in the world.
Exactly. Right? I've also made sure that I go for things where I'm going to meet these guys, right? If I go to Singularity University, right? So I'm part of YPO, right? Young Presidents Organization. You have the most accomplished guys in that city, in that country, as a part of the organization. So you go there, you speak at those events, you go and meet those guys. I've spoken in YPO events globally. And every single person is accomplished, right? And the thing is, they're positive guys. So the learning cannot happen sitting in India, right? So even like our organization has a lot of these things where you get to meet each other. And I think learning happens there. The key is to take those insights and then figure out ways of how you can implement those insights.
So has your hiring philosophy changed over a period of years on how you hire people?
Significantly. And what I try to do is that a lot of times, right, when people hire people, they focus on what weaknesses this guy has. When I hire people, I mainly see what are the strengths they have to achieve what I want them to achieve, and are they fatal weaknesses. So integrity is a fatal weakness for me, right? So if it's a question of like integrity, then whatever other quality you have doesn't matter,
makes no sense.
right? But if you don't have a fatal weakness, I ignore the weakness. Because so many times when you try to focus on somebody's weakness, right, you just will have a mediocre weakness thereafter. But if you focus on strength, you can take that guy from X to 10X.
And what are your favorite questions you ask them to figure out this?
So again, I've read a lot of these books where
exactly,
you have these
that's why I'm
questions,
asking
right?
you.
So I'll tell you what, I feel that my questions are more to do with stories. Right? So it'll be like, you achieved this. Tell me a story where you were able to show integrity. Tell me 3 stories. Right? So if you're the person who's of strong integrity, right, I'll see that does that story created a financial loss for him or not? Did he come out worse off than what he would have been if he had been dishonest? Right? So it's very easy to be honest when you have nothing to gain or lose. But by being honest, you lost something significant, right? And how big was that thing? Like, because that tells you that this guy will always be honest. Because he was willing to lose and he lost.
Many people will have such stories, huh?
Right? If they don't have stories, then they'll have to have some stories, right? Because you can't say that you're honest. And then, so I'll give you an example, right? One of the guys from UK approached me when we were struggling to pay our salaries every month. This guy had this thing where he would give you 100,000 leads of name, email address, phone numbers, etc. You had to follow a certain click path and fill up that lead, and he would pay you £5 per lead. He would sell it to the client for £100, but he would pay £5 per lead. we could have made 80 to 100,000 pounds a month doing this click fraud farm, right? And just imagine, right? You're struggling to pay 5 lakh rupee salary. You are in a position where your company is just surviving barely. You're not even getting paid a salary. You have pressures from family. You live the family business, and now you're not able to make your ends meet. In spite of all that stuff, right? And that point in time, somebody pays you 80,000 pounds every month, right? And this also click fraud is happening in UK.
You don't really,
right? It's not going to per se, and I'm sure that there were companies who were doing it, right? But the fact of the matter is that I didn't even ask anybody, right? Just the thought of itself scared the hell out of me. And I was very clear that I said, you know what? Even if I become a billionaire tomorrow, right? Somebody is going to say that ye to aisa karta tha, right? So I'm very clear, right, that I can have hundreds of stories like this, right? Even like when a competitor was doing something questionable, we didn't follow suit. I returned monies to clients who didn't know that we owed them money. And that, right? So,
just to give you a simple example at my end, right? So at India Games, we were always being told, why are you not launching Rummy? Why are you not launching gambling? Why are you not launching Teen Patti and these kind of games? And I was very clear that if we enter gambling, that's going to be the end of us. That is not the kind of values we want to inculcate in our kids or our families, etc. So we never ever did that. And believe me, that was the single best decision of our lives, because when Disney or any other company was looking at us, they were like, if you do gambling, we don't want to talk to you. So the
Absolutely.
minute you have a business like gambling and all these Teen Pattis, while technically you can make a lot of money, but no legitimate company would ever want to invest or acquire in you, because nobody wants to associate with this. So that decision of us not doing gambling was one of the best decisions which came out in the hindsight. Same thing when I started my company, we got PwC as our auditor, we got EY as our tax advisor. We're like, why the hell are you hiring? I said, listen, we want to make sure that we are above board, because a lot of times people make these rookie mistakes by getting these very, very low end tax and accountants and CAs who don't know half the things, and then they not because of your fault, but then they mess up things. And I've been through all these problems in the past. So at Goki, on day 0 we had PwC, and people are like, you are a company which is starting up and you're getting Price Waterhouse. That was, of course, Price Waterhouse has his own problems, but the bottom line was that we went and got the best advisors on board.
For a very long period of time, my most handsomely paid guy in the office was my CA, my CFO.
Mm-hmm.
Because I realized that, this whole industry depends a lot on getting your finances in order. And I realized that it takes me 4 hours to do something that can be done in half an hour, and it exhausts me. And if I take that 4 hours out, I could be doing things that are my strengths. But I think when we went through the acquisition, everything was in order, right? Mm-hmm. Because it was maintained really well. And this was a guy who had exactly the same integrity standards that I have. At no point of time he would ever tell you to do something which was not above board.
The Vishal Gondal Show will be right back after this break.
Shunyavan, 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 Shunyavan.
$1 billion acquisition. Another copycat startup got formed.
No, the tech world in India is surely moving double the speed of this voiceover.
Tune in to Shunya One every Tuesday to catch us talking to the smartest people we know on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from. Shunya One is brought to you by Setu IMAX.
But just coming back to your philosophy, right? You are like in your early 40s now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in your early 40s. You have a long time. And if your 4X philosophy has to go forward for you to now own an airplane or, buy a mansion or do any of that, that could possibly not be done with your advertising or whatever you're doing today. So does that mean that you are going to do something else after this?
Yeah. So see, Vishal, I've already invested in about 7-8 angel investments, right? I'm very clear. I'm going to always do things that I'm really passionate about that give me happiness. Right. So I'm very clear that I'm not doing it because I'm following the 4X philosophy because it increases joy in my life. I'm not following it for the sake of following it. Right. So if I want to become an entrepreneur so that I can go 4x, it defeats the purpose of 4x itself. Right? 4x should happen because of the lifestyle that I lead. So if I pursue happiness, so tomorrow becoming entrepreneur makes me happier, I'll become an entrepreneur. Some of these angel investments that I've done may go in for Series A, Series B. Will I start a company from scratch? Probably not. I would rather pivot some of these companies that are there and they feel that there is value. I may join them per se when they already have the Series
which
B
are
in
your
place,
top
right?
3 companies you think which are going to take you there?
I've just invested in this company last week. It's called Empower G. So it teaches elderly, 55 plus, seniors, the silver haired guys, technology. Because I feel that my father added 10 years to his life because he learned technology when he was in
Empower G.
Empower G.
Wow.
So EMPOWERGI as in G, right? So respect. So I feel that there is a huge impact that you can create with this, because people are going to retire at the age of 65. They're going to live to be 100. What are they going to do 35 years? If they don't empower themselves with technology, they're going to face a lot of challenges. So some of these things, there are 170 million plus people who are 55 plus in India. Right? Imagine that's just India.
And how are you finding these startups? Where did you find these guys?
So I think most of the startups that I find are people that I've introduced by somebody or I know them. So
you're not part of some angel network?
I am, yeah, but I've generally seen that. So first of all, my investment philosophy is slightly different. I take decent stakes in the companies. I also pivot them into areas that they may not have thought of. And if the entrepreneur is convinced that this is something which is...
And how much money do you typically put into this?
Anything between 25 to 50 lakhs.
Okay.
Basically, these are areas that interest me, where I know that impact can be created. And these are areas where the entrepreneur is willing to pivot the company. So their goal, what they were doing was very different.
You're spending a lot of time with these companies.
Yeah, I spend my weekends with them.
Wow. So apart from Empower G, who are the other guys?
There's a company called Spin Art, which is into table tennis. So, table tennis player representation. We're going to really build up a coaching network of coaches who can train people at their homes as well as in schools and clubs, etc. And also distribute all the kind of table tennis equipment, etc. So again, that with my UTT, my Ultimate Table Tennis League team, I think it'll get some fillip. I invested in this company called Awesomely, which is into news shortening, but using only AI and machine learning. So basically, exactly what Insurance does, but with
using
no
AI.
people. With no people. So we can do 800 stories in 8 languages versus 80 stories that Insurance does. They've raised 250 crores. This is a bootstrapped 50 lakh rupee investment that they've built this entire thing off. And again, I think it's a huge potential in this, because future is going to be where AI and machine learning can be used to shorten things. So they've also done tie-ups with corporates, with tax guys, etc., where they're shortening summary judgments. So you can shorten anything. So that technology basically is the shortening content. Then I've invested in this company that works with B2B guys in taking the customer data and using that customer data to make the advertising more effective. So they would tie up with a Wood or a Hotstar or a publisher and make the advertising more effective. Again, uses a lot of natural language processing and machine learning on the content that the consumers exchange with you as a company. Then there's one startup that I've done which is called Foodie Baba.
Okay.
So they
Foodie
have...
Baba.
Yeah. So basically what they do is, so it's D-I-E nahi hai, it's D-E and then Baba. So basically without the... Foodie is not D-I-E.
Okay,
It's
Foodie. Okay.
Foodie Baba. So basically what they do is they have curated about 70 different shops from 30-40 cities of India with the most... All the shops are 50 years plus.
Unique, very unique. For that city is known for that.
Exactly. So some other people have done it, but here we are doing a subscription model, which is again a very different model.
You can order stuff from them, basically.
You can order stuff from them, but we also can use subscription. So you're giving the 50th mithai box to your guest or your client in
You can
in
order
the Diwali.
kachoris from some specific shop.
But just imagine, so I've been sending my friends a mithai and one namkeen every 2 months. But we'll send Kanpur ka nukti ka laddu and khatte chane from Madhavat. That will come to you. So it's small quantities, but every 2 months. So they remember me 6 times in a year rather than remember me on Diwali. And with 50 mithai boxes lying in my house, the 51st guy is forgotten. But here every 2 months something comes to you, which is unique. Because it actually happened because, what happened was my daughter tasted Mysore Pak the first time in her life when she was 14 years old.
Wow.
Right? And it just hit me. I've grown up in a household where somebody would come from a city, they would get something special from that city. Now they get Theo Burma.
Yeah.
Right? So now what happens is my daughter had tasted more macaroons and cream brulees than compared to...
Or those mini donuts and
exactly,
all those crazy things, yeah.
So I said that this is sad that I have not exposed my daughter to the sweet meats of India. Let me do something about it.
How old is your daughter now? She's
15.
15, wow. And which school she... or
Bombay Scottish.
So yeah, the tradition continues. Tradition continues.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think basically what I've seen is that I think... So these are the investments I've made, and Empower G is the recent one. But I'm very excited about it. I think we can really transform India because this is one segment, right, which is going to get left out. Even from a job point of view, right? If you can create consulting jobs for them, right? So many industries, they have 30, 40 years of experience in the industry. There are startups in that industry that need help. Just because a guy is turned 67, he's still physically active, he's mentally active, and you retired him. If he has access to technology, right, he can transform companies, right? And there is no platform like this that exists. So I think, again, I also try to make investments into areas that I'm passionate about, right? I've seen a lot of pain that people who are seniors go through in learning technology. And that just alienates them. So my dad adopted technology and he had a lovely old
same
age.
with my dad. I mean, he was on Facebook like 24/7. And in fact, this one of the crazy things that, whenever I used to post anything, he was possibly the first person to like it. And today, of course, he's not, he passed away last year, but that is the one most important thing I miss because...
I'm telling you, it added a few years to his life, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
No.
So just imagine, right? There are so many opportunities. And the thing is, my mom was not tech savvy. And I could see the stark difference. She had not so good old age.
Yeah, I think tech suddenly opens a new dimension, right? Which they have.
Just imagine, right? This is somebody who's 85 years old. You take a simple Skype app, put photographs of the grandkids in that, fix up timings. If there is a helper in the house, train them also. Just make them do video calls, 2-3 calls a day with people they love. So it'll be each family member will get a one call from your granny once in a week. Right? So they would love to do that. Imagine, right? You'll change that old woman. So one of my investors in Communicate 2 was Mr. Sushil Jivrajka. He actually does it for his mother, who's 90.
Wow.
She does video calls with grandkids and uncles and with her sons and
are
daughters.
These people doing it all India? Because my father-in-law is again in his mid-80s, and while he has an iPhone, he's not that savvy with all of this. So maybe I'll have to take up your...
So we actually give WhatsApp groups. We send WhatsApp videos. We show them things that they can learn from. Because even curation is important, right?
Absolutely. No, this is fascinating, right? It's fascinating. So right now with your company, with your investments, with all of these things going on, what is the next product which you are just about to hit buying with your Forex, which you will be soon acquiring? I'm sure given you must have already you must be knowing the date on which you're going to buy that.
So, I'll say some of the things that I had on the list, which have now actually gone off the list.
Oh,
right?
Off the list?
Yeah. So basically, I had ordered this aircraft called Icon A5, which is like a BMW of aircrafts.
Yeah, this for 3 million or some 1 million.
No, it was $250,000.
$250,000
so
aircraft.
It was, and me and my friend were going to buy it together because I think two of people can fly together. We are both paragliding pilots. So flying is very close to my heart.
God, you are a flyer also, man.
So I love paragliding. So from childhood I wanted to fly. So the thing is that first of all, deliveries got delayed to 2019 or 2020. It was going to get delivered in 2018. And they've suddenly arbitrarily increased the price from 250 to 500,000.
First world problems, man.
So like,
you're not buying a plane because they increased the price from 250 to 500.
So it's like, I said, like, you know what? Maybe I'll buy it, but right now they cancel the order. I said, like, yeah, boss, let me not.
Yeah, you can't like 250 ka 300 bhi kar dete to theek tha, right? I mean, yeah, this is a little stupid.
Then the other one was, I was getting an opportunity to get a Yamazaki barrel. And again, we had to...
These Japanese single malts, people are mad about.
Yeah, so I was getting a barrel.
Japan airport, you can't buy. They're like ration. You can only buy one bottle and they'll check your passport 5 times.
So it was like 22 years old right now. And, you know, we could have opened it when it was 27 or something. So we would have had...
How do they ship you a barrel of...
So basically, what I've seen is, right, some of these things, right, first of all, it's not happening. So finally, that guy said no to us.
But you know, you buy a barrel of Yamazaki, how does it come here?
So what I would have thought was, I do have a few friends who have planes, but you would not buy a barrel. So what you do when you buy a barrel, you bottle it. You bottle it, it stops aging. So if it's 22 years right now, you leave it 5 years in the distillery, and at 27, you bottle it, then it becomes 27-year-old Yamazaki, but then it's bottled, right?
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought that just keeping the bottle also would make it that much older, no?
No. So basically, wine, it actually works that way.
Yeah, wine works that way, not
whiskeys. Oh. So whiskeys, when you say 25-year-old malt, it's the day it got bottled is 25 years.
I'm not a big drinker, as you can guess by now.
So again, for me, single malts also... Actually, the way single malts happened in my life is very funny. All my childhood, like all my college days, I would say childhood, but like...
Maybe childhood.
Childhood is like...
You must be on something to do all these crazy things, right?
So that time, we used to have vodka, we used to have Old Monk, we used to have this. I never had whiskey. And then suddenly, these owners of Glenfiddich came to my office, Peter and Grant Cotton. And, you know, they're part of Leaders Quest. Mm-hmm. So they came to visit entrepreneurs in India, etc. And from Dharavi slums to Reliance to people like me. And I gave all of them Fab Mall ka kurtas, you know, 299 rupee ka kurtas. So in the evening, they were very embarrassed because they not got anything for me. In the evening, when they meet me, and they gave me this 25-year-old special cask reserve Glenfiddich bottle. Right? It was like the bottle itself.
You were like, what is this?
Like, what is this? You know, I saw it and I said, like, okay, this looks very expensive. And I found out it's like a couple of $1,000, right? I said, boss, I can't gift it to anybody. I don't have whiskey. But I say, if I want to start whiskey, this is a good whiskey to start with. So the first whiskey I had was that.
Wow.
So that is how it actually happened. And when they gave me this bottle, I said, like, पहले बोलने का था, मैं और कुर्ते देता तुम लोगों को. I would have got a lot more.
So you couldn't get the barrel?
Couldn't get the barrel, couldn't get the plane. There is a watch that I want to buy. Mm-hmm. But I will refrain from commending which watch. But
oh God!
Yeah, there's a watch I want to buy, which would be 4x of what my current watch is.
And what's your current watch?
It's a plain, simple Daytona Rolex.
Ooh.
Rolex.
Wow!
But again, this is the only reason that I bought this one was it's unlike a Rolex. If you look at it, it looks like a Seiko. You can't make out, right? You can't. It's not one of those. You look at it and you know it's a Rolex.
Yeah,
right? This is like so. But again, this is a brand that nobody would have heard of also, and you buy it for yourself. But this also, there is a possibility I may postpone it. Mm-hmm. There's no immediate need as of now.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And with this philosophy, does your wife and family also follow this, or is this you?
So the thing is, they have a choice to follow it. But
especially with women, you don't want to give them this choice, right?
So the thing is, don't, right? Because the instant gratification is a lot more for them, right? So they'll take 20 gratifications.
Yeah, we are not
right?
trying to offend anyone here, though. But
exactly right. So now, and the thing is that they can have 20 handbags and still want more, right? Like you have 2 pairs of shoes, like, okay, boss, ho gaya mera 4x.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
It's like, and the thing is, see, it's also very clear, right? This 4x philosophy is not about not buying things that you want, right? So I'll give you an example, right? I have some expensive pair of shoes from 4S point of view, but I'm wearing Allbirds right now, which are those woolen shoes that you get, right? Mm-hmm. So they're the most comfy shoes. They're made of wool and they're rubber, right? And they are like $100 or $200. So it's not like really, really expensive 4X kind of a shoe. But it doesn't mean I'm going to buy this because I have these 1 or 2 shoes which are those 4X shoes. Mm-hmm. So see, the thing is that the purpose of philosophy is to increase joy and happiness in my life. Mm-hmm. Right? So that is never forgotten. That should be the goal, right?
But I mean,
it's a means to an end.
Base assumption is joy and happiness equals material possessions. That is...
No. So I would say there are 20 things that increase joy and happiness in my life. One of those 20 things is resisting the temptation of incrementally upgrading my material things, right? That's it. That's only one of those 20 things. And all I'm saying, I'm resisting the temptation of incrementally upgrading my material things. I'm not saying I'm after material things.
So tell me, what do people gift you, knowing this philosophy? Like, because, I mean, like you have everything which is 4x.
Books is a good place to start.
Books, okay. Yeah, you can't buy a 4x book, right? So books are... So that comes to, what are your 3 favorite books you recommend or gift everybody on your own?
So I think there's one book that really changed a lot of things that we did in the company. Is a book called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits of Vern Harnish. So it basically is for companies that are growing at more than 40-50% year on year. And it sets these meeting rhythms, like a daily huddle is something that we do in iProspect. I've done in Communicate to all my life, where you have a 10-minute call with the top 8 people in the company and gets hot synced. And they have a weekly meeting rhythm, monthly meeting rhythm, and it completely transforms the company. Because faster growth companies require that hot sync once a day rather than waiting for a quarterly result or a monthly result.
So you do a daily huddle,
yeah,
on a call with all
the top key 7, 8 people.
And then a weekly meeting also follows.
Weekly meeting also, monthly meeting also, quarterly meeting also. Then we have quarterly theme. Then we have what we want to achieve. So we'll have a BHAG, which is like a big, hairy, audacious goal. But then everything is broken into quarterly tactics. And he actually specifies exactly what you should do in each of these meetings. So he's written one more book after that called Scaling Up, but I felt that Mastering the Rockefeller Habits was a path-breaking book.
Wow.
So that
I'll definitely check this book out.
So I've been gifting that a lot. Then I think personally, all the Jim Collin books are phenomenal. Then Go to Create, Build to Last. But Go to Create for me was something more that I identified with. And I think the flywheel concept that he talked about, that... so there are 2 concepts of the book which I've implemented every day. One is that you build an ecosystem where one thing helps the other. So we built an offshore business that trained us and became better at digital marketing. That made us better agency in the country. Being an agency and a better agency in the country made us better at offshore. So that flywheel basically gained momentum, and we basically kept on becoming better and better at both, which gives us a huge competitive advantage in India. So that's the flywheel that he talks about. And second thing is that he talks about firing bullets and then calibrating it when they hit the target, throw the cannonball. So every single failure that we've had, right, digital is about failing. You fire bullets, calibrate them, they hit the target, and you throw the cannonball. So every single thing that we do in our company, we would fire a bullet. We'll trial it. We'll try it out. And then see how that can be thrown into a cannonball. So that is another author that has really, really helped me in my life. I think to a certain extent, if I go back in fiction, I think Ayn Rand, or the way you pronounce her name, is another author that has really influenced my life. So whether it's Atlas Shrugged or Fountainhead or earlier books, of realizing that it's almost going against the philosophies that a lot of people talk about, that it is the, let's say, the masses that run the country and not the leaders. So what she does in Atlas Shrugged is she just takes the leaders off and the whole world collapses, right? So I believe that if a guy like me was left, we'll figure out a way to survive. Mm-hmm. But the same thing was given to somebody who's not that entrepreneurial or jugado, then he may not survive. So what happens is that each of us have a role to play in the world, and we can move the needle of the world, and that is what I think is needed. So that belief, I think Ayn Rand gives you that belief that it's possible.
It's quite clear, one day you'll get a call from Prime Minister Modi, and he'll say, Vivek, we want to offer you a ministry, and which ministry will you opt for?
Happiness.
Ministry of Happiness.
So UAE actually has a Ministry of Happiness, which is...
So in India, they have not... So they'll have to specially create this position.
See, basically, if you ask me, right, my belief is very simple. Happiness brings you success. Success does not bring you happiness. So what is the predominant role government has? Increase the level of happiness of the country. If you can do that...
Everything else will follow.
Exactly, right. So, and the thing is, nothing has to follow, right?
And to do happiness, you are going to implement the 4X method to the whole country. Is that what the plan is?
So just think of it this, right? If you take 4X, right? It is the best way to save everything, right? Resources get saved. Instead of having 20 things, you'll have 3 things.
So unless you make like the biggest road, like all the small roads,
But even like, think of this, right? All the artisans, if you want to make something which is 4X, a lot more skill and innovation will go into it, right?
And that's actually what China is coming to think of it, right? I mean, they went from no infrastructure to like the biggest infrastructure. Everything is so big. And now maybe the Chinese already knew about 4X.
If every single thing that you do, right, if you want to make something more effective, you have to ask yourself, is this going to make people happier, right?
I can already see both Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi following up with you on who can use this 4X philosophy. But you know what? We just heard about the donut economics at the TED conference. We talked about the donut method. So maybe the 4X philosophy can really go to improve GDP of countries. I mean, you never know.
Yeah. It's actually the TEDx talk that I have. Because see, I've given 2 talks, right? One is the happiness is a muscle talk, which I think it is taking... People have done research and taking all those research and putting them into one condensed form that you have to work on happiness every day. It doesn't happen automatically. But the 4S philosophy is something unique because I think it's a lot to do with my refinement of it. I'm following it personally for 20 years. I've seen it improve the quality of life that I've led, the mission that I have, and the happiness it has given me. So I think it's played a very, very important role.
So I know you don't like to talk about the past, but if there are 3 people you could invite for dinner from the past, who could they be? Who would be these people?
So I think Abraham Lincoln comes to my mind for some reason.
Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah. Because some of the other it comes to my mind. Because I think a lot of stereotypes that are removed. I think it is very, very difficult to do all of the things that he did. In India, I would say, I think Dhirubhai Ambani would be another guy I would love to have a conversation with, right? Because what he's achieved is just unbelievable. And I know people who have known him personally and have mind-blowing stories to share about him. And I think, I would say some of the current guys, right? Elon Musk could be one guy who I would love to spend some time with rather than the past alone. Again.
And you've traveled to so many places around the world. So which are the 3 places you would recommend everybody to go to at least once in their lives? I think Montreal may probably be in the list, given that you really love
Montreal during summer, definitely in the list. Okay. Not in the winter. It was minus 15 when I went there last month. So it's not the best weather to go there. But so I think, I'll tell you what, I'm fond of traveling and I gain experiences which a lot of people may not, right? So let's say I went to Finland. I would recommend Finland to everybody. But I jumped in a frozen lake, not once but twice. I did, snowmobile riding at 100 kilometers an hour dead in the night on when it's powdered snow, which is not being touched. And it's just crazy because it just slides, right? So it's like you get a drift on the snow. You're going sideways instead of going forward. Wow. So it's just crazy feeling, right? I've gone on an ice-breaking ship, saw the Northern Lights. I tried some of the meats that they had to offer. But so if you can go to Finland, then you need to do these things. So it's not about, so if I went to Sicily last month, I climbed, Mount Etna. It had erupted 7 months ago. Right? It is the most
for
active.
you, it's about the experiences, not the place.
Absolutely.
So what are your top 3 experiences? Okay, of course, going to
I think Finland was one, definitely. I think for me, experiences are also to be like, let's say, I'm going to Moscow for the FIFA World Cup. Moscow and St. Petersburg. So I've never attended a FIFA World Cup ever in my life. So this is my first.
Wow, this is your first one directly there, huh?
Right. Then I think my first TED conference also was an experience, right? Rio, Brazil was just phenomenal. Copacabana Beach and
I couldn't actually. I was booked and I had to cancel last minute for some reason.
Brilliant. It was brilliant. What a place it was. So Rio is definitely one of the other favorite places that I have. But you know what? I also like just vegging out and reading books. Like I went to Koh Samui, there's a W property there, which is just brilliant, right? You're on the beach, you're reading a book, you're having coconut water in Thailand, which is heavenly. You're having food. I'm very, very crazy about Thai food. So see, I think if you can map out the experiences that you love, like flying, right? I would love to fly in Cape Town. Cape Town is one of the most beautiful places in the world to fly. I want to learn paramotoring. So UAE and Turkey and some of these places, they have paramotoring courses. Paramotoring is where they take a normal paraglider, put a fan on your ass, and they can take off from the ground. So you can fly from anywhere. So you can just from the ground take off and fly. So that's another thing that...
So I know this might not be the most appropriate question, but which was the last thing which was under 10,000 you purchased? Because I think based on your Forex philosophy, nothing could be under 10,000.
I'll tell you two things that I purchased.
Oh, under 10,000?
Under 10,000.
Okay.
So one thing that I purchased was the silicone laces.
Silicone laces?
Yeah. So basically what they do is, right, if you're a sports person, one of the psychological thing always happens is when you're playing a sport and you're moving around, have your shoelaces opened up. Because that can really create a disaster for you, right? So what happens in silicone laces is, it first of all converts every single sports shoe into a moccasin. So you just wear it, just pulling it up.
I have the same ones, by the way, the silicone laces.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? But these are silicone?
Yeah, these are silicone.
But you still tie them.
No, they are like pre-tied.
Acha, right, exactly. So these are, you can convert any existing shoe into this.
I have that. They are like this.
Exactly, right? So
those clips,
right?
they are like,
and I
like
love
clips.
them because what has happened is, it's converted all my shoes into moccasin kind of thing. You can just wear them. And secondly, you have never ever anything that your shoelaces are going to open. You don't have to tie shoelaces only,
absolutely,
right? The other thing I bought was something yesterday. So this is basically a hand trimmer spoon. I'm gifting it to somebody who I know has tremors in the hand.
This was on Kickstarter. I saw the
think it's a Kickstarter thing. So I bought it yesterday. I think I see that people who have been so, let's say, independent all their life, suddenly, if they're not able to eat just because their hands are shaking, I think it can change their life. So what I do is that I have a person that I told you about. One of his key KPIs is to...
Let's call him the bagman. That's
right. So his KPI is, how do I deepen relationships and create more emotional balance with people that I know?
Yes, friends. This is Vivek, who actually has a person in his team whose KPI is to make his relationship with others deeper. With a measurable impact.
Measurable impact. So like, I think this gift will create a measurable impact. So even like, I've seen that you have to be very clear, right? The KPI should be clear. So this is one KPI. Second KPI is to save me time.
So you know what I've just figured out? What you have done is you've taken your entire performance marketing business model and applied it to your own life. I think that's really what it is. Everything is about performance. Everything is about measuring the performance, and then everything is about delivering exponential results.
They say,
that's really what it is. I mean, now I get it after talking to you for 2 hours. What you have done is the performance marketing for your own self.
Simple life rule
for
is
your own self. So
whatever gets measured gets done.
I think and that's the ultimate business. I think Google and Facebook are on the long business. I think if you can build a platform which can take people and say, how do you come on this platform and we are going to help you perform better and better and better. I think that's going to be your next billion or trillion dollar. Actually, the idea is already there. You can...
Actually, Empower G is in a way doing that.
In a way doing that, yeah. Right. For a different generation. But I think you could have versions of Empower G for...
No, see, if you ask me, right, we may call it the targeting. But let's put it this way, right? If I take 10 things that people do today, book an Uber, order something on e-commerce, have an app to recognize music like Shazam, subscribe to Netflix or Hotstar or Amazon Prime, basically use certain apps for traveling, whether it's Flight Radar or whatever that tells you the gate and the flight is getting delayed or not, have ability to use the feature of backing up your phone effectively and having cloud storage so that when you lose your phone, you don't lose your data. If I just take these 10 things, right, I will be surprised if 50% of the population of India, or I'd say 80% has not done this.
Absolutely. No.
Right? So if you're taking that, if you just empower them, right? My friend has installed Hotstar Premium for his father, so he can now watch IPL when he's coming back home from the office. And he can't believe it is happening.
Yeah, that's a life-changing experience for a lot
He can't believe it's happening. Right? Music. People are losing touch with music because they don't know how to download a song and how to subscribe to Ghana or that. And now the CDs and tapes are not available anymore. Mm-hmm. What do you do?
Do you have any regrets, by the way?
Actually, none. So, the funny part is, right, I believe that every single thing that happened to my life, which at that point in time was negative, turned out to be the best thing that happened to my life. And I feel that if you take that true philosophy of Jim Collins of firing bullets, calibrating it, right, when you fire a bullet, it is a mistake. It is a regret. You calibrating it, firing one more, till the time it hits the target. Then you throw the cannonball. So every single thing that has happened, right, I think in hindsight, the best thing that happened to me. And I think that's very important to feel that optimism really. So I'll give you an example, right? I have a sales guy, and we walked out of the pitch, and he was, so I said that, we're going to get this. It's gone very well. He said, Vivek, you always say that. This time I really genuinely feel, pardon my, that, but I don't think it's gone well. I don't think we're going to get this. And I was thinking to myself, am I falsifying my optimism? Right? Am I faking my positivity? And I thought to myself, no yaar, milne wala hai ye to. I think it's gone off really well. And then I thought to myself, I said, you know what? I close more sales than him. Not because I think I present better than him. I think what happens is because I feel I'm going to get it, I will do everything that is required to close it after that, right? Send a proposal, follow up. Till the guy says, then no, I'm not going to buy from you. We hired somebody else. I will keep following up, right? Because I believe I'm going to get it. This guy in back of his mind, he has this thing that, nahi aayega.
Already given up.
Exactly, like 1%. So when the proposal bana raha hoega, he's going to put in slightly less effort than what I'll put in. He'll do all these things that I would, per se, I will do it 100%, he'll do 99%. So just imagine, right, that if you can have that positive attitude, then actually you become better at everything because you believe it's going to happen to you.
And you know what? A lot of times what you believe is what happens, right? That's what it is, right? I mean, the minute, the universe conspires to make things happen.
Absolutely.
And Vivek, with you, I could easily spend 4x the time on this podcast and we could record it forever and never end. But you know what we're going to do is get you back. So I think that's one of the most common themes now, that we have to get people back. And I think with you never know what you've done in the next time and what thing you have 4x. But it has been an absolute pleasure. Believe me, I have learned so many things. I am going to go back with all of these ideas and implement some of them in my life and see what I can 4x. So for now, thanks a lot and absolute pleasure having you on the show.
My pleasure, Vishal. It was lovely to be here. Awesome time.
Thank you. Thank you.
There she stands, a podcast addict. Outside the bank, having travelled several miles to get in with other poor souls like her. The journey, though daunting for this youngling, will have some comfort because she has downloaded her favourite podcast. You can see more of her species on ivmpodcasts.com. Your one-stop destination where you can check out the coolest Indian podcasts. Happy listening.